I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of DCF Live, broadcasting to you guys from the DCF studio here on the south side of Chicago. Today is Friday, June 9th, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hopefully, everybody is having a great day so far. And really starting to feel like summer around here. You know what I mean? It's just really starting to get that feeling around here. So it's always exciting. I feel like I do have a little bit of shift in terms of the projects and art that I want to create with the season change. I don't think I've really noticed that as much in the past. But now I feel like so much of winter to me, I'm used to doing things like cleats and just being so wrapped up in that with NFL season. And now with summer, just want to do more fun, vibrant, floral type stuff and whatnot. You know what I mean? So we have a color shifting video coming out next week, finally, that I know a lot of people are super excited about. I'm super excited about it. Long time coming. That has been a project, a theme that has been highly requested for us to do a tutorial on. And I have some really cool... I bought a bunch of different pigments just so I could test them all out, see what is easier to work with, see what isn't, and there's some really fun results on some of these pairs. I showed these off as a little teaser before, but this is one of the shoes that's going to be featured in the video. This is it's called an oil slick pigment, and just really dig how this one turned out. So it's kind of like a chameleon effect, that it just sort of changes colors depending on what light angle you have it at. So sometimes it looks more purple and kind of magenta, pinkish. Other times you start to see more of the blues. So really pleased with how that turned out. Last week we dropped a tutorial on abstract art with this pair of Air Forces. Really good feedback on that video in general and that shoe. So really excited with how that turned out. So hopefully all of you guys are doing very well. Let's say hello to some people here in the chat. Greg says, my man Dylan, how did my Freddie J's turn out? Those looked awesome, man. Really cool with how you played with the liquid latex. I'm always a fan of that liquid latex. There's some really, really cool stuff that you could do with that. What's interesting about the liquid latex is I'm very curious how too thick will be. Is it almost going to kind of take place of the liquid latex? Or will more people... I'm really excited to see what people do with too thick in general. I think that's a really interesting product for sure. And let's see here. Brian Little says, it's been a while since you have posted about vinyl you use. What vinyl do you recommend these days for shoes? Awesome tutorials. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been using the same vinyl for years, so hasn't changed. What I use there, that's still Oracal 811. I get that from uscutter.com. And that is my preferred vinyl for leathers, synthetics, things like that. If you're working with fabrics, mesh, prime knit, any of those trickier materials, go ahead and check out. It was called FDC 3700. Now it has a different name. Now it's called Scissor Easy PSV vinyl. We dropped a tutorial on a pair of Dior Jordan 4s probably 3-4 months ago. And I talk about using this vinyl in there, and I have links to all the vinyl. So I think that video is called what you're doing wrong with designer print custom. So if you're interested in seeing that one, go ahead and check that video out. HLD Custom Work says, hi, Dylan. I wanted to ask if you've selected the entries for the reviewing your shoes. I submitted my Demon Slayer Nikes. I have not yet, to be honest with you. I'm going to be filling up 3 episodes worth, so 12 shoes. I have not gone and selected through. I got way more entries than expected. There's a few hundred. So I just haven't taken the time to actually sift through all of those to find which 12 I think will work. Because what's really tricky about reviewing your customs. I don't even know what episode we're up to at this point. I think 17ish. Let me check real quick. Gosh, is it 17? When's the last time I did one? Been a while since we did one too. 17. So 17 times 4, what's that? 68. So we've reviewed 68 different shoes on reviewing your customs. So what I'm really intrigued by with that is the ability to talk about something new. You know what I mean? And something that hasn't necessarily been seen before. And my favorite pairs on reviewing your customs are, of course, I love the spectacle pairs, the things that absolutely blow everybody away. But I really love the pairs that have talking points that I know a lot of artists, not only the artist who submits the shoes in, but other artists can really learn from. That's what I love about reviewing our customs, is that it works for people who just want entertainment, just want to look at cool custom shoes, but it's also educational for anybody really diving into the craft or looking to learn more about the craft, because I'm able to point out things that maybe the it's not the untrained eye wouldn't notice, but I guess just like a more experienced eye can recognize. And there's like, if I look at some of my early work now with a more trained eye, I'm able to spot things that at the time I thought the shoe was done. I've tried to make every pair that I've ever done. This is as good as I can do at this point in my journey. You know what I mean? And so now if I look at a pair of shoes that I did 10 years ago, although it was the best I could do at the time, now I can look at it and say, okay, this could be done so much better and whatnot, So yeah, I'm going to try to get around to that next week though. Cirrus Kane, hopefully I said that one right. Forgive me if I didn't. Are you supposed to wait for adhesion promoter to dry like 10 minutes before you paint over it? So not every adhesion promoter, but a lot of them will have slightly different instructions. For the most part, a lot of the ones that I've seen, the recommended way to use them would be spray one coat of the adhesion promoter, let the shoes dry for probably about 10 minutes or so, and then once you apply the second coat of adhesion promoter, immediately after that, while it's still wet technically, although you're not trying to spray enough that the shoe actually, or the surface actually looks wet, but while the promoter itself is wet is when you want to start applying your paint. So immediately after. So you wouldn't want to be spraying your first coat of paint when the promoter has already dried, essentially. What was your most difficult shoes to create? I would probably say like any of the portrait pairs that I've done, just because I am portraits and realism. I don't have any formal training in painting, so those were really, really hard to do. So any of the portraits that I've done, I did a Kobe portrait, a Scottie Pippen one, and then a Patrick Mahomes one. But the pair that's on this thumbnail as well were really tricky to do. The Dragon Ball pair that I did for that gallery Sakura last year, that was definitely a tricky pair, but really stoked with how those turned out. Have you seen the new Spider-Verse movie? I absolutely loved it. I have not yet. I have heard absolutely nothing but great things. I'm waiting to take my son Dexter. He enjoyed the first one, and I did too. But people are saying this is like top all-time comic book movie and stuff, and that's awesome, man. I'm super excited to check it out. Can you make a custom Neymar shoe? I can do absolutely anything. If you're interested in commissioning a piece, shoot me an email, contact@DeJesusInc.com. So today I also wanted to we could get around to some reviewing your Instagrams later if you guys want me to check out some profiles and whatnot, but I wanted to show a little bit of some of the pairs from the last DCF Experience. So the DCF Experience number 4, that was 3 weeks ago today. So let me switch screens here. And you guys can still hear me, should be good. Let me make that comment go down, and whoops. And so I'll move my my little screen after we look at the top pairs here. But this first pair was actually done by, his name is Gauthier, and he came all the way from France. for the DCF Experience, which is absolutely crazy. Our first international traveler, so super excited. I mean, what just an unreal honor that he was interested in doing that, and he did a really cool color shifting pair. So this pair of Air Force Ones here in the top left, the floral print right now, how all of the floral is white. Once you step outside, and they are lit up for a while by the sun, since he did a UV activated paint, all of the little floral print that he did with the stencil turns to a kind of light magenta berry color almost. So it looks really cool that there's these two different shades of pink once these are out in the sun, and really excited to show you guys those a little bit more in next week's video about color shifting, because I definitely wanted to highlight those. Next to that, we have a pair of Galaxy Air Force Ones. She was inspired by some of Serato's work, so really wanted to do just a crazy, colorful, all over Galaxy print, and she knocked these out of the park. First time airbrushing for Claudia's Artistry is her handle there. You should be able to see all of their Instagram names as well. And we did a really cool demo for everybody with the lightning, the colored lightning. So what I've learned works really well as I continue to try to get better with each course and figure out the best flow. How do we just make the experience as best as possible? Something that I've done a lot more with each course, and this one it felt like just the right amount, that I try to insert these little breaks where somebody's about to do something really interesting, like colored lightning. And so Claudia here, for example, even though nobody else did colored lightning on their pair, I thought, hey, this is a great moment for the entire group to gather, and let's all do a quick colored lightning tutorial. So let's all gather for 5 minutes, and then I'll demo it on one of the shoes, and then the artist herself, Claudia, can do it on the other shoe. And that's, I of course ask for permission. Hey, are you okay with me doing it on one of the shoes and then you doing it on the other? So far, everybody said yeah to that, but I of course just want to ask as an artist for permission to be working on their shoes in case they want to leave with that satisfaction, knowing, hey, I've done absolutely everything on these shoes with no help. So I did lightning on one of the shoes and she did it on the other. And like I said, although nobody else has colored lightning on any of their shoes, you still may run into a situation where maybe down the line you want to do something similar, even if it's not colored lightning. Maybe you want to find a way to make something glow. You know what I mean? How do you make a color glow against a dark background? In this case, this shoe has a lot of different dark purples, dark blues. So how can you make, this neon green really pop? And we walk through that. So doing those little breaks where everyone can gather and, hey, everybody, we're about to do a tie-dye sock liner tutorial over here. Let's say somebody was doing a chunky dunky theme. If you're interested in seeing how to do that, come gather around. But of course, sometimes people are just so locked into their project that they want to continue just, with where they're at. But it feels like breaking into those groups to do those little segments here and there are super beneficial. And it feels like, people are really enjoying when we do that. Next to that, here from Genevieve, we have a really cool pair of Miami Heat Air Force Ones. You can see we have the Heat's colors with the gradient. And then there's, she used our swoosh basketball stencil for some of the texture work in the background across the gradient. And then my favorite part of these, of course, has to be the basketball pattern on the swoosh. And she accomplished this by laying down just a nice orange swoosh and then doing all of those dots in a dark orange, kind of dark brown. And then just the black, curve of the basketball. And it's funny, originally she had told me her concept was she wanted to just do, the tiny little dots and then do a black outline around everywhere. And I said, what if you took the time, what if you switched it up from just a black outline around the swoosh and instead you did, the curve, the lines, the black lines of the basketball here near this front edge of the swoosh. I think that could look really cool. And so love how those turned out. Next to it, unfortunately, as a Chelsea fan, somebody wanted to do a Liverpool pair. And so these were really, really cool from, his name was Michael, and he knocked these out of the park. We did a dark red to a lighter red gradient on a lot of the upper, and then that teal swoosh is just like the perfect amount when you have, you could call it essentially an accent color for Liverpool that they don't use too often, but sometimes it might be on the collar or the edges of the jersey, something like that, a little stripe here and there. But I love how those turned out. He did a really clean stencil as well. Let me switch over now, move my box up, and we can take a look at some of these bottom pairs. So here we have we'll start in the bottom left from Jacob. He did this Ninja Turtle pair, and his pair was insane. I remember talking about his concept with him, and he easily had, he was trying to accomplish 100-hour pair over the weekend. So I said, look, we're probably only going to be able to get through one of these shoes, but for something like this, let's get as far as possible on one of the shoes, and let's knock out all of the major details. But some of that character work, of course, is, since he was going to do all 4 turtles, one on each side, a lot of that's going to have to be finished elsewhere. So I know he is done with these. He's going to be sharing some finished photos soon. If you're here in the chat today, Jacob, let me know if you've taken those photos, and you could send them to me. We could pull them up. But a lot of cool stuff here. I mean, the cheese dripping from the eyelet panel is insane. And then when he rotates them around on the back heel tab, he has the TMNT logo on the sewer. So, I mean, this is just one of those shoes that such a cool collector's piece. The longer you look at them, the more details you're going to find to enjoy. Next to it, we have a pair of, I forget the character's name, but I believe the anime is One Piece. Is his name Luffy? I want to say Luffy. And this was from Nolan, and this was his first time doing any character work on shoes. And come on. For first time doing character work, this is absolutely insane. The image that he found had these really, really nice subtle blends on his face and within his hair and things like that. So when I was working on this pair with Nolan, I knew that, hey man, once we get this sketch laid down and once we start laying in some of these blends, this is just going to completely transform this piece. And it totally did, from being, he started off with more flat colors on the character after he did the sketch. We had one skin tone, we had all black for the hair, and then like all navy blue for a shirt. But I said, once we start doing some of these blends, we work from, darker to lighter for these skin tones, this piece is really going to come to life. And for first time doing character work, insane. Next to that, we have Jishen with just a beautiful, beautiful pair of Air Force Ones. I love this color palette that she selected. I know she had this picked out on day one, and then she added this really subtle kind of animal skin pattern with some metallics in the background. She went with the, what's the metallic purple called? The Prince Purple on the swoosh. That looks phenomenal. And this is just one of those where, I mean, come on, like that's just a killer color palette to work with. You know what I mean? With the nice mint on the quarter panels and, at the very front of the mudguard. So love how those turned out. Next to that, we have Heath. Heath came all the way from Kansas, and this was a really cool pair of Air Force Ones that he did, I believe, he was giving them to a DJ friend of his. So that's why we have those sort of little dials that are on, forgive me for not knowing what the little dials are called on a DJ's board on the back. And then he had this cool little moon logo. It's kind of like a moon and waves on the swoosh that we did. So those turned out really, really cool. Heath just sent me some cool pictures of his next project earlier today. So let's go ahead and check out some of the next ones. Let's go there. Let me move my camera to start. And okay, cool. Top left, Nisha with this really cool pair of Ohio State Air Force One. She did this silver to red gradient. Great job. First time really nailing a gradient, playing around with those texture stencils, and first time using a vinyl stencil as well. She killed these. She was so stoked with how they turned out. And that's my favorite part on day 3, seeing, the smiles on their face and letting them just be so excited with what they accomplished is awesome. So Next to her, we have Loida, who did this really cool pair of Dominican themed Jordan 1 lows. She was really going off of that. I don't have a name for it. It's a theme where you lay out a lot of little stencil icons. It's something that I did on this Oklahoma pair of Jordan 2s that were for Lincoln Riley years back. And that seems to be a tutorial that, even though it's like not one of our, it seemingly not a video that a ton of people viewed or anything relative to some other videos, but that seems to be a tutorial that people always hit me up about. It's like a 4-year-old video and people still hit me up about it and say, hey, I have a question about this, or check out what I did, following that tutorial. And so this was that. So some of those tiny little icons, she started with this darker red pattern. We laid down all the stencils and then she did the lighter red on top. And now you have all these fun little, icons and imagery from Dominican culture, and those look great. Next to that, we have a pair of Georgia Air Force Ones. This was an interesting project because originally on day one, this was her name was Melissa. She wanted to do the Georgia logo. Very cool idea, wrapped around the back heel so that when you viewed the shoes from the back, you would basically see the Georgia logos stretched across the back heels. And I remember thinking, that's a really cool idea. However, Air Forces have a very narrow back heel. And two, there's so many panels right here. The back heel tab, that little strap below it, the swooshes, that I said, look, being that the Georgia logo is already so curved, it's going to be a really, really, really tricky process to wrap that logo around there. So we talked her out of it. We got her in that little back lower ankle panel that I think always works great for logos like this. And really stoked with how those turned out as well. Next to that, we have Renita, who did, I want to say this is the first pair of cleats worked on at the course. And so these were for her son. He attends, I want to say Howard University, I believe that is. They're like the Bisons, I want to say. And yeah, I love how these turned out. First pair of cleats, and she did, I was telling her, you went through every, you covered such a wide spectrum of techniques to do this pair. There's this gray to blue gradient, a multi-layer stencil with the logo, just great utilization of stencils and the different ways you could use them. If you take a look at the insides of the shoes, where she did the underrated, lay down the stencil, and then just spray around the stencil so that you get this, it's a really cool effect where you spray around the positive portion of the stencil, and then now all that negative space, you still have what's underneath. So love how those turned out. Let me switch to the top here. Then we have, in the bottom left, a Harry Potter pair from Sheila, and those are cool. A lot of great techniques on, like I said, she did the color lightning as well. And again, great utilization, different ways of using stencils, spraying around the HP. Now, being that we were working on an all black shoe, we went through the process of how are you going to make a bright yellow pop against black? And so we started off by laying white on top of there, and love how those turned out. Next to her, we have Raymond, who brought in this really cool pair of Air Forces. I'm not sure what this theme or model is, because this wasn't just a regular pair of Air Forces. If you look at that quarter panel, how it has like the two different swooshes, they were a pretty interesting base. But he just had a mock-up that he was wanted to knock out, wanted to play around with an airbrush for the first time, did some texture stencils, and just a really, really clean overall theme. So stoked with how those turned out. Next to him, we have Ziomaro, who brought this pair of, I want to say those were Adidas. And were they? I can't remember if that was, or is it a similar looking to, a superstar? I can't remember if that was a pair or not, but she did a camo print, and this pair was sort of a culmination of her and her husband's marriage. So they have all their kids' names on there, on the back heel tab, the year they got married, and things like that. So really cool. Those definitely pop with the red laces. And next to her, we have Leanne, who works in interior design, I want to say, and she had this beautiful pattern that she came up with. And I love these, essentially almost another version of an abstract art theme pair of Air Forces down here in the bottom right. Leanne absolutely crushed these, and it was cool seeing everybody helping her walk through the process of how you would do all of these different shapes and how are you going to build up to this final design. What are which color should you do in which order and things like that. And it was really cool to see those come together over the weekend. And then last one here, since I couldn't fit 8 on each slide. Last but certainly not least, we have Joyce, who actually attended the DCF Experience for the second time. This time around, she was determined to get through. She had this mocked up, this pop art concept, and we were deciding, should this be done with a multi-layer stencil? Should this be done with the image transfer technique? Ultimately, we went with the image transfer sketch, but she has this really cool light orange to darker orange gradient, and then the pop art women holding the camera, and all the different shading in there, in the hair, on the skin. The pictures are a little bright, so you probably don't see it as much in the skin, but just a gorgeous pop art theme, and she totally crushed these. She's, since I know, done the other shoes as well. I saw they have just more pop art in different colors on every sides of the shoe. So this is a pair that really, really, really pops. Joyce, I'm super excited to see what she does in the future, because she has a lot of skill to be able to do something like this. And the rest of the shoe looks absolutely amazing as well. So super cool. Let me switch over here so you guys can see this screen. And let me pull this up. Okay, so the landing page here for the DCF Experience. The 5th rendition of the DCF Experience is open to register. We are going to be doing it. It's coming up quick. We're 2 months away, basically. It's going to be August 11th, 12th, and the 13th. So like I said, we're just 2 months away. It's going to be here in Chicago, and you can see everything that is included here, from 2 pairs of shoes, a pair of Air Forces, Vans. Everything is yours to take home as well. A compressor set from Badger, a Badger Patriot 105 airbrush. It feels like a lot of people, now after doing 4 of these, it feels like I continue to find a huge majority of the group, time after time, is really attending so that they can feel comfortable using an airbrush on a daily basis. Certainly for myself, I remember I couldn't comfortably use an airbrush or depend on an airbrush for probably my first 5 years or so, which is insane looking back on now, how much slower I probably was and how much progress I missed out on just because I wasn't able to figure out how to use an airbrush and things like that. So it's so cool that now people leave so much more confident in using an airbrush and things like that. So a ton of Angelus paints are provided, all of your prep supplies. You don't need to bring a single thing. So all of your prep supplies, all of your paints, all of your finishers, different finishers, your matte finish, your gloss finish, paint brushes, regular standard ones, detail brushes, toothpicks, of course, a toothpick gang apron, a shirt, of course, to commemorate the DCF Experience, tons of stencils, reusable and vinyl ones, and so much more. So it's a great time. So anybody who's interested, please go ahead, check it out. I have it linked in the description of this video. And of course, if you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. So spots are filling up quick, and we are just over 2 months away. So don't miss out. If you're interested in coming to the DCF Experience, we would love to have you. So, okay, let's see what I missed out on here in the chat. Let's see. Royalty, do you know if you could take all of this stuff on a plane if traveling internationally? So actually, Gautier, I could find out for you, because I could speak with Gautier about any hassles he might have ran into since he went to France right after. And I know that a lot of the stuff you would probably have to put in your checked bag rather than your carry-on. But that, I'm sure you would, have a checked bag regardless. So probably shouldn't be an issue. Other than that, once all of your supplies, the only real thing that I could maybe see them saying, "What is this? The compressor?" But yeah, I could follow up with and see, because I should have the answer to that on any issues that might have arose or things like that. Let's see here. Greg says, Dylan, you remember I was scared of the airbrush? It took me a year plus to get the airbrush confidence. Yeah, man, that happens for a lot of people. It's one of those things where so often your airbrush just ends up being more of a headache than a reliable friend that you can count on. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have it flowing properly, if it's just getting clogged, if you don't just have your workflow down of being able to make sure that all of your paints are airbrush ready and it's clogging every time, there's nothing worse than just being ready to move to the next phase of a project, pulling out the airbrush, trying to use it, and it's just clogged. It's not spraying properly. It just ends up frustrating you more. You know what I mean? So you definitely don't want that. You want it to be a reliable friend for you, for sure. Jalen Evans here says, have you ever used color shift pigment on cleats? I have not on cleats. These couple pairs of Air Forces that I have here are really my first experiment in dabbling with some of the color shifting pigments, and that video will be out next Wednesday. But yeah, I think that now I probably will want to experiment with doing some color shifting cleats next year come football season. For sure. Channing here says, thank you for all the info you provide, bro. I've learned so much on what to do while I'm just starting my joints. Very cool, man. I am glad to be of service. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in, Ben Stangen Customs. Excited to catch you at our next DCF Experience, man. Excited to finally meet you at our next one. And we will be showing, once we're doing a recap of the DCF Experience number 5, we'll be showing off your pair, man. Yes, sir. Start thinking of what you want to do, man. Start thinking of what we're going to get through that weekend. Blue Dunnett says, have you used the Angelus deglazer pads much? How do they compare to cotton balls? Angelus deglazer pads. I did not know they even released their own. Let me see. Unless, maybe I did. Oh, okay. So just the all-purpose applicators. Yeah. Those totally work. Yep. I wasn't sure. I had to do a double take to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. So yeah, those work. Those totally work. I'm old school and I still use cotton balls for them. Let's see here. BN says, question, is there ever an issue with using an IP or artist work on a shoe, especially if trying to create videos? For example, I want to recreate a comic artist Mortal Kombat art. Great question. I always have to preface every legal question with, don't take my legal advice since I'm not a lawyer. But for something like that, where if you were using a comic books artist, it depends on if, boy, oh boy. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on if it's for profit, essentially. You know what I mean? So if you are making the video, it depends on if you are posting the video to YouTube. Would you essentially be running ads on the video? Whereas if you're just creating fan art, most artists probably wouldn't, see any issues with that. But this wouldn't be something that you'd want to be posting for sale, make it look like, hey, I'm going to do a limited run of 10 of these pairs without speaking with the artist first, of course. But a lot of times if you're just creating, fan art, a one-off project, that would be okay. I've seen and done a lot of stuff like this in the past, where if you show it to that artist, there's a really good chance that they'll be stoked with how they turned out. And they might even want to share the project. You know what I mean? They might say, hey, look, somebody did my artwork on a pair of shoes. That's pretty cool at the end of the day as an artist. You know what I mean? So again, it just depends on if it's, a for-profit thing or not. So Royalty says, I have had an airbrush since Christmas and have yet to buy a compressor because I'm nervous to start. Yeah, airbrushing is one of those things, man, where I mean, like, even if maybe it looks easy in some videos, by certain artists, I'm not even just saying myself, but you might see videos where it looks like they have an airbrush going. It can certainly be intimidating. You know what I mean? And make you feel like, boy, I don't know what type of compressor do I need? Do I need, I always think back to when I was growing up going to the mall and you would see airbrush t-shirt shops and they would have 8 guns going at a time or something like that, one for every one of their colors, something crazy. And I remember getting started doing shoes and thinking, man, in one day, am I going to need to get a setup like that where I have 8 different paints? And the reason that you usually don't need to do something like that with shoes, again, generally speaking, there might be some artists that does, run a workflow like this, but a lot of times with shoes, you need to let the paint actually dry. There needs to be actual dry time. So there's not many situations where you quickly need to go from one color in your airbrush, red in one airbrush, directly to now I need to quickly grab my yellow paint and now I need an airbrush that's full of green paint and do something like that real quick. No, in 99% of situations, you need to let the paint dry anyway so you can just clean out the airbrush cup and, start loading in your next color. So I haven't seen proof that any artist working on shoes needs, 8 airbrush guns at once for all of his different colors or something like that. So, IRT Roarsam, hopefully I said that right, says, how are the Angelus neon paints and is the application process the same as normal paint? So I would say that it's not the same because most of the neon paints are trickier to paint. So for example, I'll grab them real quick because their arms reach away. Let's say that you were doing something like the Angelus neon yellow. So we have our Angelus Tropic Sun Yellow neon color. What you would want to do is, again, this is assuming you might be working on a white leather shoe like an Air Force. You would want to start with something essentially like a pale yellow, which is, or you could start with a regular yellow mixed with white, but you want to start with the non-neon version of the color. So if you're working with neon blue, start with regular light blue. If you're working with neon orange, start with the nice light orange. Oh boy, there's a ninja down here. Just throw a ninja star at me. You want to show your ninja costume, dude? Careful by those cords, okay? Nope, stand up. Careful. Careful. Want to show your costume? Come here. I got a little ninja here. Thanks for coming by me, guy. You almost hit me with your star, man. You almost got me, but you just missed. Careful by those cords, okay, bud? Yep, put it right back on that Velcro. Good job. So you want to start with basically the non-neon version of whatever neon color you're working with. Same goes for metallics. If you're trying to do a metallic silver, start with just a light gray or something like that. So something that you can easily, get 2 to 3 solid coats of pale yellow on your shoe and then slowly start mixing in some of the neon yellow into that mixture with each coat. Do a little bit more. So that's how I would go about painting neons, because otherwise, if you just took Angelus Neon Tropic Sun, what is it called? Tropic Sun Yellow and tried to paint this directly on top of white leather, I kid you not, it would take you at least 10 coats, which is never something that you want to do. You know what I mean? That's just far too many coats on the shoe that'll no longer be wearable. Have you used Alpha 6 paints? They're good, but really thick. Diluting it is usually needed a lot. Yeah. So they are very thick. I've been using Angelus for years. I'm a creature of habit, so I stick with what works well for me. I have every color imaginable of Angelus, so I haven't found another brand that I enjoy more using than them. That's for sure. So, but yeah, that's certainly what everybody says about the Alpha 6, that it's a lot thicker, and that's something that you certainly wouldn't want to run through your airbrush right away. Okay, let's see if I missed anything. Let me know if you guys want to do some profile reviews here soon. Do that. Well, I actually can probably only go about an hour or so today. So let me know if you want to do some profile reviews here soon. Let me see if I missed anything. Patrick says, could I submit one of my marble pairs to Revering Your Customs? For sure, man. Send me an email with them, and I'll be picking those out soon. Trying to see what else I have coming up here after next week's color shifting video. I have the next couple ones that I have lined up. I have a really good Jordan 1 tutorial. I picked up one of those pairs of the I don't even know the nickname of them, but I don't know if they have a nickname, but it's essentially almost all of the upper is the cement print. And there's just a few white leather panels, and I'm going to be doing one of those Atmos Air Max 1 themes on those, and I'm going to be doing a pretty cool. The goal of the tutorial is really talking back to basics prep work and trying to actually demo shoes holding up and those going through creasing and things like that. So really excited for that video. And I got to do, I've started to outline a Procreate one, because we did a stencil tutorial on some character work about a month or two ago. That video has really taken off, which is awesome. And there's just been a lot of the feedback that I've gotten is people want to see more Procreate stuff. So I'm starting to plan out a Procreate tutorial. Videos that are based around numbers and list always tend to do well. So it might be, some of the working ideas in my head might be 20 tips that you need to know for Procreate for sneaker mock-ups and stencils and things like that. That's too long of a title, but something along those lines. Because I've done a couple Procreate tutorials in the past, but now it's just time to update it and walk through it a little bit more. So excited about that one as well. Let's see. I had a busy week getting through a lot of pairs for some Father's Day pairs. I had to do a bunch of kids shoes this week as well. I did a cool Nickelodeon themed pair of Jordan 1s. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of those real quick. So old school Nickelodeon with the orange and the slime. Those are fun. I kept them simple, didn't go too over the top. Thought about maybe doing more with maybe even playing with the too thick for the slime and things like that, or maybe the liquid latex. But these were for kids, so I know these are going to go through a beating. So I didn't want to do something that I know liquid latex or something like that is going to rub off real quick as soon as those hit the playground, you know what I mean? And then I did, let's see. Had a pair of superhero themed Jordan 4s. So this is kind of cool. This is one of my clients years back commissioned me to do shoes for all of the groomsmen in his wedding. I think we probably ended up doing maybe 12 to 15 pairs, something like that. They all got these same matching camo Jordan 1s. And on the back heel, instead of Air Jordan, we put Air and then their last name. So his last name was Teitelbaum. And so all of his friends got their last name, and it said Air DeJesus on the back, or whatever their name was. And shortly after that, he got married. or he got those were for his wedding shortly after he got married, when he started a family, and now he's on his second kid. So this is a Jordan 4. Every year he orders whatever age his child is turning, he gets a pair of Jordans to match that number. So when the kid turned 1, we did Jordan 1s and so on. Now his oldest son just turned 4, and he's getting a pair of Jordan 4. So really cool concept, and his kid will obviously appreciate it one day down the line when he has Jordans 1 through who knows what number he plans on going up to, whether it's 13 and you're a teenager, or 18 finally when you're an adult. But he'll have a pair of Jordans that match his age every year, and so that's pretty damn cool. So it's fun doing shoes for his kid every year. And I mean, look at that. Look at all of the business that we've done together now, because somebody messaged me one time for doing some groomsmen shoes, worked out a deal with him, and he's ordered other shoes as well. I know he's in the real estate business, so he's bought shoes for some of his contractors and developers and things like that. So you never know what one client can turn into, because you never know what sort of field they come from. You know what I mean? You never know what their job is and who they know and things like that. And so it's always great to make connections, because you never know, one simple email, DM request, or networking opportunity, you meeting someone, can turn into a business relationship that lasts for years. You know what I mean? And making sure you provide a great experience for people with just your customer relations is going to play into that as well. So, don't take anything for granted. Try to treat every customer, like every client, every opportunity you have, like it could be that one big opportunity that turns into something huge for you, So, okay, here. New Betray says, no specific question, but thank you so much for your content. I made matching forces for me and my kids. Your info has been essential. My sister saw them and asked for a pair to match her wedding. Oh, very cool. Congratulations on doing that. Congratulations to your sister on getting married. And hopefully you're able to make a very special pair of shoes for her. That's really, really cool. That's awesome. Melanie W. here says, I've been asked to customize a pair of cleats for a 10-year-old. Where do you recommend I start on pricing? Yeah, so this is a great question that there is certainly no perfect answer to. There's no formula that I'm going off of. It totally depends on what you might be doing on them. It depends on how long you think they'll take you. Essentially, to me, time is one of the biggest factors for how long a project might take. But for something like this, I always like to just try to provide a little context to the number that I might give. How many cleats have you done in the past? At the end of the day, chances are, being that these are for kids, also, the parents, depending on their situation, might still have in their head, oh, these are kid shoes. I'm not looking to spend $1,000 on a pair of cleats. So what is something more reasonable? They probably might expect to spend maybe $100 on the artwork for cleats. Now, is that necessarily fair or profitable on your end? It totally depends what you're doing. There's a big difference between you doing a simple gradient that matches the team's colors, or trying to do very complex character work because they want Batman on one shoe, Superman on the other, Spider-Man on one, and the Hulk. You know what I mean? Then that's going to take you a whole lot longer than if you're just painting a black to purple gradient or something like that for their team's colorway, So the time that you're going to put in is a very big factor here. So once you know more about that, you might have a better feel for, okay, something like this is probably going to take me 10 hours to do. What do I sort of need to make to cover my bases so that I'm not in the red per se as I continue to do more of these projects? If you have to go in the red on this one, but then all of a sudden now maybe you're able to start doing cleats for, maybe you have the opportunity to do more cleats for the rest of the team or other people you may know who have kids in a similar age bracket that are likely going to want custom cleats after they see this first pair, then maybe it's okay to go in the red on the first one, because it might open up more doors for you, So tons of factors. I always wish when I get a question like this that there was just this perfect formula from algebra class that I could give. where we're solving for X. You know what I mean? But that's not always the case. So those are some of the factors that I would consider. What would be the best mobile option for creating artwork? Surface Pro, Studio, or iPad, Galaxy tablet? So I'm in the Apple ecosystem. I'm a big fan of Apple products, have been for many years. So I'm a big fan of iPads. I use an Apple laptop, have an Apple computer. So I mean, you can do a lot of great stuff with any of them, though, truth be told. You know what I mean? I don't know if Procreate is an app that is available on Microsoft tablets. I can't say for sure. It might be an Apple only app. But I know that, Microsoft certainly has their own similar version of Procreate, an app that you can do really cool stuff. Thankfully, apps and developers continue to get better nowadays, that whatever hardware you have in terms of tablet from any which company, you're going to be able to do really cool stuff. So Ron, I wonder if it's just Aaron. Ron, or just Aaron Customs. I'm going to go Aaron Customs. Says, what software do you use to edit your videos, and what plugins do you prefer? So I use all of Adobe software from I picked it up in college, starting to use Photoshop. The video editing software that Adobe has is called Premiere. So that's what I use for all of my video editing, for YouTube videos, for creating shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok videos, whatever, things like that. But it is a paid software. But I believe you can get like essentially the entire Adobe suite. So Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere, all of those. For, I want to say it's $50 per month for all of them. Or I think if you have a student email, it could be, I think you can get it for $20 a month, but don't tell anybody. That you can just say you're a student, I want to say, and it's $20 for the first year, and then it goes to $30, I believe. But yeah, you get so many great apps within the Adobe suite. Truthfully, I don't even maximize all of them. I pretty much just use Photoshop, Premiere, and Lightroom. I don't really use a lot of Illustrator for anything, but just in terms of other free ones, there is CapCut. That's what a lot of people use. There is Splice, which is another one that you can use to edit videos. I believe Adobe Premiere Rush might be a free phone app that you can do. So it really just depends how complex you're trying to go with it. But I use Premiere, and then in terms of plugins, I use quite a bit of... There's no plugins that I use, but there's a lot of presets and templates that I do use. But I mean, there is literally unlimited free ones that you can find just searching YouTube tutorials, free transitions for Premiere, free templates for Premiere, little things like grain and sound effects, all that stuff you can find free all across the internet, just searching on YouTube. But yeah, that's what I use to edit. But some free ones would be CapCut and Splice if you're just trying to do mobile video editing. Hi, do you recommend to go to a shoe festival as a customizer, even if the festival itself is more about resale or selling shoes that you cannot find on market? Absolutely, 100% without a doubt. The reason for that is because think of how targeted of an audience you have in front of you. Hundreds or thousands of people who are used to spending crazy money on shoes. That's awesome, because there is still a huge chunk of people out in the world that would never spend over $100 on a pair of shoes. You know what I mean? There is a large majority of the public that doesn't really care to spend money on shoes. They're used to just picking up a new pair of shoes at the mall once a year or something like that. You know what I mean? So now you're in front of hundreds or thousands of people who are used to spending crazy amounts of money on shoes, and probably want something that will separate them from the pack, since everybody there is going to be looking for or wearing whatever the newest release of the past few months is. You know what I mean? So now here's an opportunity to get something to stand out. So I'm a huge believer in going to a convention as a sneaker customizer for sure. And I think you don't even need to go with the intention of selling shoes. The reason for that is because there's so many sizes for shoes. Unfortunately, it's not just like clothing where you have small, medium, large, extra large. Of course, there's additional sizes, but you have sort of your 4 main sizes if you had merch or clothing or something like that. With shoes, men's sizes alone, you have 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5, 11, 11.5, 12, 13. That's 10 sizes right there. That's just men's sizes. So if I went, with this pair of abstract Air Force Ones that might be a size 10, I have to hope that somebody, first off, enjoys this artwork, and then part 2 is a size 10 or enjoys these color shifting shoes. But again, then they have to be a size 10. You know what I mean? So go more so with the intention to just display, network, and make future connections so that they see your work. You can shake their hand, give them a business card, and say, let's create something custom for you. You know what I mean? So don't go with the intention to sell, go with the intention to make leads. That's what I would do. That is what I would do. Dr. Nick here says, thanks so much for all of your content. I have joined the Toothpick Gang on my Hokas because I didn't like the colorway and those birds on the logo are tiny. Oh, very cool, man. Glad to hear that. I know Hokas have really grown in the last, 18 months or so, but I haven't seen a lot of custom ones. So I'm curious to see if we will start to see more in the near future. Blue Dunnett says, IBIS Paint X is free. I use it on my Chromebook. Glitchy sometimes in basic, but it can get the job done. Yep. See, there will be some free software that you can use on any iPad or any tablet you might be working with, So, okay, guys, we'll go another couple minutes here, and then I do have to wrap it up a little bit earlier today. So thank you guys for hanging out for this episode of DCF Live. We're on a good streak here. I think we're like 7-8 episodes straight of I said I wanted to really get back into it and try to do it every other week. Holding true to that. I think we're like I said, probably 7-8 episodes deep, and trying to stay consistent on YouTube is tough. It is tricky. So been at it since the end of football season, basically for a few months now, of trying to upload one video, a standalone regular upload every other week, and then every other Friday doing in between the uploads, doing an episode of DCF Live. I used to be able to do these every single week. I think that was summer of 2020. But yeah, it's been fun. I enjoyed doing these with you guys. So Dr. Nick says, I'm working my way up to Air Forces someday. Very cool. I look forward to hopefully seeing some of your work on those Air Forces. For sure. I think he mentioned it up here. Jacob said, I'll be taking the theme photos tomorrow, but if you want to share any of the ones I DM'd you, that's cool. Yeah. I'll probably share those next time. He's going to be doing some theme photos with, he did the Ninja Turtle Air Forces at the course. So I'm excited to show off all 4 sides because we only got to see, at least in that little collage from earlier, the Raphael side. So excited to show you all the different sides of those. Man, YouTube consistency is no joke. I try to do 1 video per month, and sometimes I struggle to do that. It's tough, man. It really is. I mean, videos, what's crazy about custom shoe videos and things like that is you first have to do the artwork that's interesting enough for a video. And sometimes, that could take anywhere from 8 to 100 hours to do a pair of shoes. And then you have to do the editing, so then you have to compile all of your footage and make an interesting enough YouTube video out of that. That can take you another 10 to 100 hours to edit. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is tough. I am very excited because I actually, the video next week, the color shifting video, I've started to work with a video editor. I actually discovered talking on YouTube. So it's a funny story that I'll go into more detail later as hopefully we continue to work together more. But I was watching a video. There's a guy named Hillier Smith. He was Logan Paul's video editor for a long time. He didn't do the one video, but he now has a YouTube channel, and I think it's called the Editing Podcast, where he just talks about video editing and things like that. And he had a guest on, and I end up leaving a comment to somebody saying to their editor saying, hey, you know, they were talking about, because I always assumed I would need to get an editor to be in person. It would be too hard to do it over the internet, or somebody who was remote, you know what I mean? And so anyways, they were talking about working with remote editors and things like that, and how some big YouTubers do it. And I said, their YouTube editor left a comment on the video responding to like a joke they made or something like that. So I decided to just leave them a message and say, hey, you know, are you open to taking on any more clients, things like that. Just a total stab in the dark. And anyways, shortly after, I got an email from somebody else. That editor didn't get back to me, but saying that they would be interested. They checked out the channel, started speaking with her. She's actually in Romania. And so we've been going back and forth now, working on this color shifting video together. And she did probably 90% of the video edit. I fine-tune some things because, you know, when you're working with an editor, it's just really interesting, because you have video editing is just a totally different ball game, because you can totally just change a video, even if it's already scripted, even if it's already blocked out the exact flow of the video, but you can just totally change the tone of a video, the way a video is going to be received by how it's edited and things like that. And you might have an intention in your head versus where it ends up. So it's been interesting to go through that, because I worked with Jason for years, our creative director, and he did essentially 95% of the video editing. And but it just felt easier because we were working together, and we essentially started from ground zero, in that when we joined YouTube, neither of us had any idea how to do any video editing, and we just learned together. So it's not like when we started, I had a ton of preference or said, hey, do it like this, do it like that, or I prefer it this style, whatever. We were just so raw in the beginning that it was just, let's try to make it as good as possible. And so over time now, having edited YouTube videos for 5 years, I very much have a tone, a style that I like, that now it's hard to, you know, do that right away with somebody else. So it's interesting, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Interesting to see how it goes. We got a couple good questions here. Let me see. ClipCut works nice for reels. Very cool. I don't know if I've used or heard of ClipCut, so another great suggestion if you're looking to do some Instagram reels. Drew says, I'm working on Spider-Verse Jordan 1 mids with more of the abstract pop art styles from both movies. Very cool. I look forward to seeing those, because those are some colorful movies, so there's a lot you can do with those. Jose David here says, hey, I just got my first client and I'm so nervous but excited. I'm painting some Jordan 1s Visionaires into pandas. Any advice? I need to see what Jordan 1 Visionaires look like. That's not a shoe I know off the top of my... I'm sure it's one that I've seen, but just the nickname of it. I have to take a look. Okay, so it's the neon. And you're doing those to pandas. So are these all leather? Can't tell if the neon is leather. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, it looks like it. It's kind of like that cracked. Switch over just so everybody can see them as well. Screen. Okay. Here's the pair. You guys can kind of see. It's most visible here on the mudguard, that sort of cracked leather. And so I believe, since you're doing a panda theme, those are just going to be, all the neon panels are going to be painted black. And then I don't know if you have to paint this top collar white. I can't remember if you would have to do that on the panda dunks or not. What that collar would probably be, because if that has to be painted white, that is a little bit of a pain. since it's black now. Yeah, you would have to do that white. So that, rather than just painting, my tips for that would be, rather than painting white directly on top of this black here, paint it light gray. Once it's solid light gray, then move into kind of half light gray, half white. Do a couple coats of that, kind of like a mist color. And then I never paint just pure white. I never in any situations do. So even my final color, when I'm trying to make it white, I would still have a couple drops of light gray mixed into there, just so you can cut down on the total amount of coats needed, since that little bit of gray gives that paint just so much more coverage, in my opinion. So you don't want to end up doing something, if you just tried painting white on top of that black leather, that might take you 8 to 10 coats, and that's just too many to do. You know what I mean? So have fun with them. First paying client. That is very cool. Congratulations as well on that. I'm rooting for you. Send me some pictures of how they turn out. I'm sure they'll turn out cool. And that is a cool first project for you. Good for you. Favorite finish that you use the most? I use the Liquid Kicks matte top coat. That's what I used for probably a couple years, but now what I've used for, I want to say since kind of like last January-ish, the start of last year, 22, would be the Angelus matte 4-coat. That's my favorite one now. Okay, guys, that right there is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of DCF Live. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Have to go a little bit shorter today. Got some other stuff to get to. But next week we'll be back with a color shifting video on these bad boys. And quick little glimpse, I got the other shoe that I worked on as well. Just a quick little teaser of those. But that one was really just, one of the shoes is really just a demo mock, testing out a lot of the pigments. And this one I wanted to have a finished design to share with you guys. So really stoked with how those turned out. There's going to be a ton of value packed into that video. I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy it. So that's a good one. That's going to be next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that one. And I might try to go live again. We'll see. I want to try to, if possible, I might try to do these every Friday for a little bit here. As we lead up to the next DCF experience and whatnot, just to help spread the word about that. We'll see. But you guys will see me next Wednesday in that video. Appreciate you guys. And if you have any pairs, since I haven't selected yet, if you'd like to submit a pair for reviewing your customs, send me an email, contact@dejeusinc.com. Make sure you put in the subject line reviewing your customs, so I can put those in a separate folder. I'll be sifting through those very, very soon. So hopefully all of you guys have a great weekend. And we got Game 4 of the NBA Finals tonight, baby, in the Champions League tomorrow. I can't wait. It's a good sports weekend. Gotta love it. All right, everybody, take care.